We're here in Las Vegas. We're covering Freedom Fest. And James Delingpole from Breitbart London. You've come a long way, sir.
Yeah, to Vegas. But I mean, there are worse places, aren't there, to have a convention, particularly a convention of libertarian dudes. I mean, there are a few pleasures available for that kind of person.
Yeah, I was just in your beautiful country, and I went on the London Eye for the first time. Compare it to this new Vegas Ferris wheel. Do you think it's just a paltry copy of the London Eye?
The London Eye actually is one of the few good things to have emerged out of the Labour government, the disastrous Tony Blair era. I mean, there was that appalling, what was the thing that they built in Docklands, which was, they had a sort of politically correct exhibition which nobody came to, and it lost loads of money. It's now a rock arena, but it was one of those socialistic grand projects which completely fails.
Right. Let me ask you a question before we get into our politics over here, which I know you're keenly interested in. We see here the rise of, or maybe the rise of, but we hear more about the UKIP party.
Yes.
And a lot of people compare it to the rise of the Tea Party here in America. Just in an elevator speech, what is UKIP exactly, and is it analogous to what the Tea Party is here?
Yeah, UKIP stands for the UK Independence Party, and it is often described, I think fairly correctly, as the British Tea Party. It was originally, as its name suggests, it was originally founded in opposition to the European, what I call the European socialist superstate. It responds to a feeling which is quite common throughout the individual member states in Europe, that they have no democratic control over their countries. You know, you place your vote, but the guys ultimately who are making the laws that dominate your lives, they come from these unelected commissars in Brussels and Strasbourg. As you may know, they have two parliaments.
Do you think, we just saw the local elections, and there will be national elections next year. They're talking about maybe even a UKIP member, a member of parliament. Is that a possibility? What
happened was that UKIP completely cleaned up in the European elections. Now, that is... it is not necessarily indicative of what's going to happen in a parliamentary election, because people despise the European Parliament so much that it's almost like chips and Vegas. It doesn't feel like real money. So you cast your vote, you're thinking, oh well, what the hell? I'm going to vote for the guy I really want to. I'm going to vote for UKIP because they're the party I like. People are much more calculating and serious with their vote when they place it in a parliamentary elections, because after all, I mean, it's the House of Commons in Westminster. Will UKIP get a seat? I don't know. It's the Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition at the moment is benefiting from a mini economic boom. Property prices are rising. I'm not sure how real this is. I think it could be foreign investors. I mean, Europe, the European mainland, is such a basket case at the moment. The economy is tanking. I mean, you think your economy is doing badly. You try.
Hey, I do.
Try living in Spain or Portugal, where they've got 50% youth unemployment. I mean, it's a disaster. Even the Germans are suffering. This is because the European superstate is sclerotic. It's bureaucratic. This is what happens when big government gets really, really big.
Let's stay in the UK for one more question. The BBC just said if you are a climate skeptic, if you deny global warming, you'd have no place on our network. Regardless of the merits of the argument on either side, what do you think of the actual the state, the broadcasting entity of the state saying an entire point of view is completely invalid?
I can't think of any other subject area under the sun where the BBC would apply that rule, where you cannot have an alternative voice. I mean, the BBC is our state broadcaster. We have to pay for it with a compulsory levy, which is about 200 or more bucks.
It's for people to know, it's a TV tax. You get taxed on the televisions in your house.
And if you don't pay it, you can theoretically get put in prison. So this is a serious business. So the BBC has these statutory obligations that it is notionally committed to fairness and balance, just like Fox News, but actually it has to do it. Right. So by law. And yet here is the BBC saying, no, we are going to shut out of one side of the argument all these really quite reputable scientists. I mean, these guys know what they're talking about, and the BBC is rejecting wholesale the possibility that, hey, these guys might be right, and maybe the whole anthropogenic global warming theory we've been hearing about for the last 30 years is a busted flush. Because, hey, there's been no global warming since 1997. Hey, that's quite a long time. Any child under the age of 17 has never lived through a period of global warming. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that maybe, just maybe, the scientists have been pushing this stuff, and the Al Gores, maybe they're wrong.
Talk to us about, when you look at what we're dealing with in the beginning stage of Obamacare, talk about the NHS and what you've dealt with all your life in the UK.
It's funny. Before Obama got it into power, I wrote this book called Welcome to Obamaland. I've seen your future and it doesn't work. And the reason I was eminently well qualified to write this book was because I'd seen what happened to Britain under Tony Blair, and I knew Obamacare was being talked about, and I thought, aha, we've already experienced this. We've got the NHS. And at the time, I remember Obama was making these predictions about how much it was going to cost, and I said, if it costs anything less than 3 or 5 times what you're claiming, I'm a banana. And sure enough, Obamacare has been... Look, the National Health Service was designed at the end of World War II, modelled, I think, on Stalin's Soviet Union, more or less. It rationed health care. We know, do we not? The government is really good at making economic decisions. I mean, government it ought to be running every business in the country because it's so efficient. It knows how to spend our money really far better than we do. Why don't we just give it all our money? And so I think it's a really good idea to trust the government with your health care because, like, it's only your life, isn't it? It's only your future. No, it's we've experienced for a long time. I remember I was out at a wedding and I fell into a ha-ha. Do you know what a ha-ha is?
I don't know, sir.
It's an ornamental wall which is designed to keep out the sheep, so you can't see it. I fell over the edge. I fell 10 feet I broke my leg, and I went into hospital, an NHS hospital, and I remember being treated a bit like you would if you were claiming welfare. You are treated like a supplicant. I'm thinking, hang on a second, I pay my taxes and you are treating me like dirt. This is, you can get good care in the National Health Service. They're very good for things like, well, I mean, really serious stuff. But it's a lottery. It depends on what area of the country you live in and so on. And I think our cancer care rates, cancer survival rates are lower than certainly in the US. Although I think that may change now that Obamacare is coming in.
James Delingpole of Breitbart London. Of course, go to Breitbart London. Anywhere else we could find your stuff?
Well, I've got a website, jamesdelingpole.com. I write for the Spate. I'm all over there. I'm a whore.
You're in the perfect town. Thank you, James.
Thanks.